So there's no host. All right.
How are you, Jack?
Hey, Adam, how are you?
Everyone's there.
Good, good. Enough time for a call.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Now you see my office.
Nice. Nice.
Never figured why go home.
I hear you. This is my office, my bedroom, so
Love it.
it makes
No
it
other
work.
office.
Yep.
Yeah, I heard it kept snowing there. I left this morning. I guess there was about 2 inches on the ground. It just disappeared around Wayne, and didn't get a flake around here. Did it continue out there?
It continued for a while. The plows came through. They put
Oh,
salt down.
mhm.
So
That's good. Roads were great. So,
yeah, our guys do a phenomenal job.
you know, I drove over to my nephew's for Super Bowl, and no question, we had the best streets around. It was like night and day crossing out of the township.
Totally.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Christy, do me a favor. If you can keep track of when council members are speaking, if they're not muted, to mute them. Okay, because I want to make sure we don't get background noise and people aren't speaking out of order and stuff.
No problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One, two, three, four, 5. Pat, I don't know if you should proactively reach out to Manny or not. Oh, there he is. Nice. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, looks like everybody's on. I'll wait for Miss Noon and Mr. Kelly to show themselves, then we'll get the meeting going. Are we streaming yet, Chrissy? Started streaming. All right, so I think we're just waiting on Mary to show up. 1, 2, 6, 7. Are you out there, Mary? There she is. All right, I am going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:32. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic which stands one nation under God,
one nation
indivisible,
under
with
God,
liberty and justice for all.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in taking a moment of silence to remember the service and sacrifices of the armed service members who protect our nation and the first responders who protect our neighborhoods.
Mr. Jackson, can we recognize Mr. King's father?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
Just real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt on that. On February 2nd, we had Peter J. King, 85 years old of Montville, which is the father of our current municipal prosecutor, Peter King, had passed away. And I just want to, from the council, to send our prayers and condolences to the family of the Kings for his passing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly?
Present.
Councilmember
Present, I'm
Quinn?
sorry.
Here.
Freeland?
Here.
Councilmember Kritz?
Here.
Councilmember Salberg?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Noon?
Here.
Vice President Sackett?
Here.
President Jackson?
Here, we have a quorum. Please be advised that all electronic and remote meetings of the Township Council held on WebEx are recorded. All members of the public will be provided the opportunity to speak during any public hearing or open to the public sections of the meeting. The Township Clerk will unmute each member of the public and ask if they wish to speak. As per Rockaway Township Code 2-5.14, any person desiring to address the council shall first seek recognition from the presiding officer, and upon recognition by the chair, the person shall give their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the council, they shall limit their statement to 5 minutes. Statement shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. A councilman shall not direct any question to a speaker addressing the council except through the presiding officer. In addition to speaking on the record during council meetings, members of the public may submit questions and comments to the council by emailing questions@rockawaytownship.org by the end of the public session. Hey, Pat, can you reach out to the mayor? I don't know if he doesn't have the right invite. I think he's having issues getting in.
Sure, I'll call him.
Thank you. Okay. This meeting was advertised in the Daily Record and the Star Ledger, the official newspapers of the Township of Rockaway, on January 9th, 2021. Notice was posted on the official bulletin boards of Rockaway Township. First item we have on is Resolution R21-28, resolution condemning the January 6, 2021 arrest in Washington, D.C. Oh my goodness.
Council President,
Yes.
we spoke prior to the meeting. I believe we spoke yesterday. We were going to relocate that until after open to the public to give the members of the public the opportunity to speak.
So would somebody like to make a motion to move that past open to the public?
Make that motion?
Adam, anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Clerk, you could take the roll call on moving that resolution past open to the public.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn, Councilmember Quinn,
You're muted. You're muted, Jack.
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz,
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Noon,
Yes.
Vice President Sackett, President Jackson,
Yes. That's 9 yeses. The resolution will be moved directly after open to the public, which brings us to our next agenda item, which I believe is open to the public. So, Chrissy, if you could start going through. Well, first, let me ask Pat, have you gotten any emails yet?
Council President, I have not.
Okay. Okay, Chrissy.
I have Donald Duffler,
What was the name again, Ms. Clipperton?
Okay, let me hang up. Yes, I'm with Northern New Jersey Council for an item on the consent agenda.
I'm sorry, could you state your name and address? If you want to speak and open to the public, you can state your name and address. If you have nothing to say, you know. But if you want to.
My name is Don Duthaler. I'm with Northern New Jersey Council Boy Scouts. With the address is 25 Ramapo Valley Road in Oakland. I'm here to speak with regard to one of the items on the consent agenda that pertains to Camp Lewis.
So you can speak on any topic you want to in this section. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. One of the items that you have is with regard to Camp Lewis. We are seeking consent of the council to approve our Treatment Works approval application as submitted to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. By way of introduction, Camp Lewis is a Boy Scout camp that's located on Upper Hibernia Road and has been operated since 1943. So we're just a few years past our 75th anniversary. We do run a number of youth programs out of the camp. In the summer, we have our Cub resident camp there, and we have 2 and 5 night programs for boys and girls aged 5 through 10. And we have about 300 participants at each of those for that period. During the fall and winter, we do have a variety of programs for Cubs and Scouts of all ages, and do serve about 1,800 youth over the course of a typical year. The issue that we're trying to address is that we have unlined pit latrines at the camp that have been there since probably the 40s and 50s. We're trying to get those closed and have a better waste treatment system in the camp. We are regulated under a T1 permit with the NJDEP, and one of those requirements is to close these pit latrines. We have developed a program to replace these, and they would be replaced with concrete-lined vault toilets and pavilions. As part of the approval process for these, we need to obtain a treatment works approval permit from the New Jersey DEP. We have prepared that application, and as a component of that is we do need the consent of the town council for that application. We understand it was submitted to the health department, and we understand that has been reviewed, and I don't believe there were any issues that they had with it. So tonight we're asking for your consent, and there is a resolution to approve that and execute it. The one request that we do have in reviewing the draft resolution, it did have the name of the council as Northern Jersey Council, and we ask that that be corrected to be Northern New Jersey Council, which is our proper name.
Instead of north, it would be northern, you're saying?
Northern New Jersey.
Yep, okay.
If there are any questions, I'm happy to help, and we do appreciate your assistance.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next caller, Chrissy.
Candace Davis.
Yes, hello. My name is Candace Davis. I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Duthaler. I'm just calling in regard to the project for Camp Lewis.
Hey, Ms. Davis, I'm sorry, if you could just, for our record, state your address.
I'm with the firm Yannicone Villa and Aldridge. My address there is 460 Main Street, Chester, New Jersey, 07930.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
And I am just online just to provide any assistance with any questions from the council with regard to the project at Camp Lewis.
Okay. You can go to the next caller, Chrissy. Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Eric Chamberlain.
Yes, good evening. My name is Eric Chamberlain. I work for the Northern New Jersey Council of Boy Scouts of America, 25 Ramapo Valley Road, Oakland, New Jersey, 07436. And I also am here to support and answer any questions in regards to the Camp Lewis project that we have. And I'll keep it short and just say thank you for allowing us to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lillian Sweet.
I have nothing to say. Thank you.
Patricia Dignan.
My name is Patricia Degnan, 88 Valley View Drive, Rockaway. I just wanted to thank the road department for all the hard work that they have done over the last week. It's amazing the job that they've been able to do in our township. You can tell as soon as we leave Rockaway Township. They have worked so tirelessly, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Pat. It's very, very stagnant. It's very noticeable. You're true. As soon as you get out of Rockaway, you can tell. Next caller.
Patrick Egan.
Yes, hi, Patrick Egan, 59 Lenox Road in Rockaway. I just want to really thank the mayor and the administration for the great job that they've done to get the basketball courts and the tennis courts underway. I see on the agenda that there is the bid went out, it's been accepted, and we'll finally get this long-awaited project underway in the township of Rockaway. Not only from a taxpayer's perspective, but someone who's been involved with the softball league for years and has been at that part many, many times, not only coaching, but playing. It's nice to see that we're bringing life back into this town by revamping a long overdue recreation complex. And it's great that we'll see kids back on the basketball courts, people on the tennis courts, even get our seniors involved with pickleball, which I'm not too many years away from, as some of you on this council I can see. So really happy that things are underway. It's great. And I just really want to thank the mayor and the administration for the long, hard work, along with the council, working with the council. I know many of you have been involved with this as well. We're finally moving in the right direction and bringing something really, really good to Rockaway. So thank you all.
Thank you. Next caller.
Ron Cleland?
Yeah, I have no public comment.
William Degnan?
Only thing I'm going to bring up is about the construction behind at Valley View Drive. The explosion seems to be getting more and more, and they're getting shaking the houses across the street from them. I don't know what they're doing, but they're starting at 9:30 in the morning. Kids are doing virtual learning with the high schools and the schools right now. That's not fair to our students to be having to be class interrupted by an explosion at 9:30 in the morning. If they're going to do explosions, they should do it after the school hours.
Okay, thank you. And thank you. I'm assuming Ms. Seeger and Mr. Ferrante will continue to investigate that situation. So.
And that's it for our public call-ins.
Mrs. Seeger, are there any emails have come in?
I'm checking. No, sir.
Okay.
What I see.
All right, so moving on to the next item will be Resolution R21-28, resolution condemning the January 6, 2021 civil unrest in Washington, D.C. I believe, and Mr. Sackett, I believe you said you wanted to read the resolution. Is that still the case, or?
I think everyone had time to read it. We did have some
Okay.
adjustments from last time after the tabling. I did speak to a couple of people about it. We made some updates with it, had the town attorney look it over, and I'm satisfied with it. I don't feel I need to read it over.
Okay.
Has a copy of it, so I'm good to go.
I just have a question, if I can be recognized for Mr. Sackett.
You can be, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you.
Did you ask your question?
Oh, no, I did. I thought you said that I could be.
No, I said yes, you're recognized.
Oh, okay. Jonathan, when I had asked the last time about the resolution that we had here, where it was the resolution condemning the January 6, 2021 siege in Washington, D.C., and you had told me that you had wrote that resolution, Mr. Sackett?
Say that. I didn't write it.
You said that you wrote it and you passed it along to
Not true.
I
never said I wrote it. Not true.
Okay. Did you get it from someplace else?
I worked on it with the town attorney.
You worked on it with the town attorney. Okay. Because this resolution was in Morristown.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, it already passed in Morristown verbatim, which I submitted the last time.
That I'm aware of.
Oh, you're telling me that the town of Morristown copied your resolution?
I have no idea. What's your question?
Yeah, do you
have a question?
Well, no, I just, when you mentioned it last time, Mr. Sackett, that you had written it with the town attorney, it appears that Morristown had already had it on the agenda and voted on it on the 26th of January before we did. So did you actually write this, or did you just copy it and give it to the attorney?
Anything. Any other questions you got?
The Morristown resolution number is R36-2021.
Do you have any other questions, Mr. Kelly? Does anybody else have questions?
Did you copy it from Morristown? Mr. Sackett?
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, so, can I get a motion?
Council President, I was
Yes.
just hoping, just before we take a vote, I was just hoping to make a quick statement about it.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm in favor of passing R-21-28 resolution condemning the January 6, 2021 civil unrest in Washington, D.C. in its current draft as a standalone statement to the grievous nature of this act of domestic terrorism. While members of the council and township residents did express concern that it should include other violent actions which took place over the summer of 2020, I feel this would be a great injustice to the spirit and message of this resolution. The terrible riots of this past summer are completely unrelated to the attack on the Capitol and should be dealt as a separate awful chapter in our history. Please pass this resolution as it was originally drafted. Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? Okay, wants somebody make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, second. I'm sorry, who seconded? Okay, Mr. Salberg. Clerk, you can take the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly,
I'll approve the resolution that's copied from Morristown.
So what?
Councilmember Quinn, Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz, I didn't catch that. I'm
He
sorry.
said yes.
I'm getting.
He said yes.
I apologize. I'm getting a lot of feedback.
That's okay.
Councilmember Salberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Noon,
Yes.
Vice President Sackett,
Yes.
President Jackson.
Yes, that's 9 yeses. The resolution carries. Next is ordinances to introduce. We have ordinance O-21-02, an ordinance amending chapter 25 entitled Stormwater Control of the General Ordinance of the Township of Rockaway. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Clerk, you can take the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly? You're muted, Mr. Kelly.
Can you ever unmute me, Mrs. Clipperton?
I can, but I'm...
Background.
Okay, thank you. Yes on A.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz?
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Ordinance carries. Next is O-21-03, an ordinance fixing salaries of various officials and contractual employees of the Township of Rockaway and the County of Morris. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay.
Can we have discussion on that, Council President, real quick?
Sure, I'll give 5 minutes of discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
Let me just pull it up real quick. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, take your time.
On all of these salaries that we have on 2103, we have like a range from, I'll take, this is just a hypothetical number, just the construction official, which is the first one, from 51,200 to 121,686. How do we justify the range? And that's just not just this position, but all of the positions, because it just seems such a very low number to a very, very high number. And I'm not sure if there's a some kind of rationale in coming up with that number range.
I don't know if Mayor Puzier or Mrs. Seeger.
Yeah,
you
Council
wanna-
Council President.
Yes.
I'm going to ask Mr. Kelly to submit his questions in writing, but I am going to answer this question. We've been through this. I've answered this myself personally, as well as our business administrator, numerous times to this council, as well as over the past 4 or 5 years. We set a range, and if a job opening happens, we have to have a range in place depending on the talent pool that we receive. If we get applications and we have people, 3 or 4 people who apply for a particular position who have no experience or very little, they're going to get paid on the lower end of the range. If we happen to capture somebody that has quite a bit of experience, then their worth to that position is more. It's just the way it is. It's common business practice, and I've explained that over and over and over, year after year after year when this comes up.
Thank you.
I think you've only been the mayor for 2 years, and I think this is the first time you've asked it.
Any other questions? Okay, clerk, can you take the roll call?
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Fritz,
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Noon,
Yes.
Vice President Sackett, President Jackson.
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Motion carries. Next is O-21-04, an ordinance fixing the salaries of various officials and exempt employees of the Township of Rockaway in the County of Morris. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Adam.
I have just 2 questions on this one, real brief.
Go ahead, you're recognized.
Let me just pull it up again. We have on here with the ordinance, I'm sorry, 2104. It has the full-time employees. If many of the members of the council remember, I had asked the mayor about discussions of a public safety director, and the mayor said that he had no knowledge of that and didn't have any communications about it earlier. But now I see that we have a director of public safety on here between a range of 50,000 to 125,000. Are we looking to put somebody in that position or have this position since we haven't had it before?
Council
And
President,
my second part of the question is,
Council President, might I be recognized?
I'm still.
Yeah, let Mr. Kelly finish his whole question. I'll recognize you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, you know what? I'll let him answer that, and then I'll go to
Okay,
another one.
go ahead,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
That was asked at 2 meetings, the last meeting and the one prior. No, there's nothing on the table to hire a public safety director. Many of these positions, actually, I put that on the salary ordinance because you actually got me thinking, Mr. Kelly, if we ever need a position like that, it's just good planning to have it on there in case we have retirements within a police department or we have different positions in town in terms of our fire and our safety director. If they leave, if they choose to take another job, I always have to explore potentially condensing or hiring additional personnel. So that just prepares us for the future. So I want to thank you for bringing that up and putting that in my mind. That's an excellent idea. But no, we're not looking to hire somebody right at this time. Not at all.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
There was another position that was there, but just as a reminder, again, there are records that show that you had prior discussions about this back in October of 2020, and it wasn't me that actually put it in your mind. I think you have a previous co-employee that you work with that's looking for that position. I just thought it was very ironic that we have it now on our salary ordinance. So a great work with that. The other question I have is the tax assessor. We have a deputy, we have a tax assessor in here for 60,000 to 120.
I don't know what you're
And then we
talking
have,
about. Please submit
we
it.
currently have a deputy tax
Council-
assessor right
Councilman
now,
Kelly, can I
but I don't
respond, please?
see any, you're
You know,
interrupting me while I'm
talking
speaking,
about-
Mr.
Hold on,
Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, and I'll recognize you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jackson, for recognizing his interruption. We have the tax assessor that's at 60,000, 120,000 that's there. And with that, I don't see anything for a deputy tax assessor who we currently have right now. Is that something that we should add on this ordinance, since we have somebody that's holding that position?
It's on there. Look down a little bit.
The deputy,
Yeah.
You down.
I see tax assessor, tax
Keep going down.
collector.
Deputy, it's under deputy municipal clerk.
I do
tax
see it.
collector.
Thank you very much. That is something I did not see. Thank you very much, Mr. Sackett. Then the other thing is we have our municipal clerk. And again, I see this 40,000 to 75,000. And I don't understand where, when we look at other averages of other clerks and other municipalities, many in which are very small compared to the 25,000 residents we have in Rockaway, and we're only having it capped at 75,000. Yet we have Mr. Critch trying to increase council and mayor's salary almost $30,000.
Okay, you're no longer recognized, Mr. Kelly. You're no longer recognized. You're not going.
Shouldn't we increase these numbers then?
You're no longer recognized. You're no longer recognized. Mr. Mayor, I'll recognize you if you want to address Mr. Kelly's false accusations. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Kelly, could you please submit the documentation that you're speaking of? You say that there's correspondence. I would like copies of it because I don't recall, I don't know what you're talking about, or I don't remember. So if you could please submit those documents to me that you keep speaking about meeting after meeting, I'll take a
Look at the attorney records.
Okay.
So, has anybody else
Look
have
at
any
your
questions?
records.
Mr. Kelly, you're not recognized.
Okay.
He was
Anybody-
talking to me, Mr. Jackson.
You're not recognized.
I
You
answered
should
his
have to be
question.
recognized.
Council,
You're out of order, Mr. Kelly. Anybody else have questions?
can I continue for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, with the clerk's position, I evaluated some of these items, and I look at towns, I look at what others make, I look at the organizational structure. Some of the towns that Mr. Kelly's speaking of, they don't have a deputy clerk or an assistant clerk here, like we do in Rockaway. So there's different minutia that Mr. Kelly is failing to speak about. It's not just about salaries. It's about departments and how they're run with additional personnel or no additional personnel.
Thank you. All right, clerk, you can take the roll call. Mr. Kelly, you're out of order.
No, I'm not.
You're out of order.
Under Kelly.
Yes, and the clerk, I do think you're worth more money than what they're giving you.
Member Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Freelander.
Yes.
Councilmember Critz.
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Noon.
Yes.
Vice President Sackett. President Jackson.
Abstain. So that's 8 yeses, 1 abstention. Ordinance carries. Next, before we get into the consent agenda, Mr. Yatsovano, I'd like to ask you, so R 21-37, we were asked to modify it. So at the bottom where it says by the North Jersey Council of the Boy Scouts, we need to make that Northern New Jersey. How would you recommend we approach this?
Council President, can everyone hear me? Sounds
yes. Yes.
Sounded like somebody was wrestling a steer. It's a non-substantive amendment. The council can pass the resolution with the simple directive to the clerk to make the change when the resolution is prepared for final signature.
Okay, thank you. So with that said, we'll go into consent agenda. There's R 21-35, R 21-36, R 21-37, R 21-38, and R 21-39. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Council President, I make a motion to move R 2136 for discussion. It's dealing with almost $1 million expenditure.
Anybody want to second that?
You don't want to have discussion on $1 million expenditure?
I'll second that.
We'll second
Thank
it.
you.
Clerk, can you take the roll call on moving that?
I did not catch who seconded that motion.
That was Adam, Mr. Salberg.
Councilmember Kelly?
This is for moving it for discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz?
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. R2136 will be moved for discussion. Ms. Clifford, how would you like to proceed? Do you want us to vote on the other ones before we have discussion? So
Yes, please.
If you could take the roll call on R21-35, R21-37, R21-38, and R21-39.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn? Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz?
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. So R2135, R2137, R2138, and R2139 carry. And Ms. Clipperton, make the note that R2137 North should be changed to Northern before the final resolution is drafted. Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have discussion on R21-36. Mr. Kelly, go on through it so you have questions.
Yeah, you know, on the, I believe it's page 58, maybe even, if anybody's looking on it, on the agenda backup material, it starts on page 56, I believe here. And we're dealing with the basketball courts and the tennis courts, you know, and if everybody remembers, some of you that were on council at the time, back in April of 2018, we had a member of the public that had a concern with the tennis courts and about how dilapidated they've been over the course of 5 years and whatnot, which led to an inspection. And then there was some potential liability and risk issues that were there. And it led into the basketball courts as well as the tennis courts, tennis courts were closed. They have been since. And the basketball court had some repairs on low spots and the curbing around the courts removed to make them safer, and we've had some injuries in the years past over there. But at the time when we were going through the council and we were dealing with this one particular issue with the basketball courts and trying to allot about $400,000 for them, and when we looked at it, the actual cost of it, we had scoreboards and a whole bunch of things that were kind of over the top of building a basketball court, where other courts in Morris County did not have this stuff. I mean, they're for pickup games, and we had all scheduled games indoors in the schools. And now we have this combined total of $957,485 for a tennis courts and the basketball courts. And we're here to vote on it. I'm looking at the backup data. I don't know if there's another plan. I mean, we had a concept plan that Mr. Brooks said somewhat submitted back on October 2nd of 19. And then we had E&I that had basically duplicated Mr. Brooks's plan. And now we have this moving forward. How is the breakdown from the basketball courts? How much is it different from the original projected cost of under $400,000 to where right now, is that still the same amount for the basketball courts? And the tennis courts are almost $550,000. I mean, I don't know if any of you have seen anything, but I, as a council member, haven't received any actual physical plan with the spec that's all here. Now, I'm sure there was a spec that was put out for the bid packets to be coming in, but we were never copied on any of that, or I can say I haven't been copied on that from engineering or the mayor or even the rec committee. So I just wanted to know what's different from when we were originally talking about this to having so many different arguments over the cost and trying to reduce the amount of money, have a meeting voided because of all of this, and now we're inflating it an additional $600,000. Does anybody have any information with that? What we're actually building and how much has changed? Anybody?
Yes.
Mayor, Mr. Mayor, you're recognized.
We're building basketball courts as it planned and tennis pickleball. Those are the two projects.
I understand that, Mr. Mayor, but like, how much has changed? I mean, before when we talked about it, we only had a conceptual plan that E&I had submitted. We needed that plan anyways for the bond ordinance that we had. But as far as the technical stuff that we would need to see to what's going on here for this large expenditure, this is a lot of money. I don't feel comfortable, and I know you don't care that I feel uncomfortable voting on this. Maybe we should actually put this on referendum and let the people, the residents, the taxpayers really decide, should we spend this amount of money? And I know that you went back, I believe we had some employees taking records home and looking through ordinances and bonds and trying to come up with where all this money was kept from different projects and putting it aside. But $1 million for a tennis court and a basketball court, when I had mentioned of a comparison of Randolph being less than $150,000 and it was a phenomenal court, I know there's a difference of some construction that takes place, but $1 million is a lot of money. And I think we could use that $1 million for other things, even other areas in this complex that we're trying to do. You're talking about turf. Mr. Brooks wants a hockey rink that's going to be ridiculously expensive. I mean, this is multiple millions of dollars that we're going to be spending on this. Shouldn't we have a little bit of a plan to show us what we're doing so we can actually vote on this amount of money to spend? And I understand, Mr. Mayor, I know your passion for it, but just because you say so and not showing us anything, I know the others will probably vote whatever you say. I just would like to have something to look at so I can justify it. And what you showed me could be really good. And I say, you know what? That is great. But $1 million, I want to see what I'm spending $1 million on, not just that we're doing a basketball court and a tennis court and pickleball. There should be more information to all of us, including the public, to see what we're going to approve tonight on a consent agenda.
May I speak to that?
Just give me 1 second. I just want to ask, I know Mr. Kritz and Mr. Brooks and Mr. Sackett and Mr. Quinn have all been involved in this. You know, I'd ask for their feedback. Are they satisfied with what they've seen in this cost?
They have no background in construction.
Mr. Kelly, you're out of order. Don't interrupt me.
Oh, Mr. Kelly, you're telling me I have no background in construction?
Mr. Brooks, wait till you're recognized. Mr. Kelly, you're out of order again. Mr. Kelly, you're out of order. Mr. Kritz, I know you raised your hand. You can be recognized.
Thank you. I also shared a lot of the same concerns initially that Mr. Kelly did. So I emailed ahead of time administration. I asked for copies of the bid that went out. I asked for copies of the drawings, and I was furnished everything within an hour. I reviewed everything.
I've asked for that too.
Kelly, you're not recognized, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, you're not recognized. Stop talking. You're out of order.
I want to correct Mr. Kritz. He's wrong.
Mr. Kelly, you're out of order. You're not recognized. Do you have anything else to say, Mr. Kritz?
Yes. The point being is I did have some questions. I wanted to see what we're bidding on or what we're voting on. And I was supplied everything that I asked for. I did have some feedback for Ms. Palmieri, and she responded very quickly about some questions and a possible addition, something very small that I asked for, and I was responded to quickly. So I get it. You know, I completely understand, you know, the want and the need to see what we're voting on, but the stuff is available. I mean, I got it as soon as I emailed.
Thank you, Mr. Kritz. Mr. Brooks, did you have anything that you wanted to be recognized? Or?
Certainly, thank you, Council President. I also had some questions in regarding to the bid and the dollar amount, and I asked for backing, and I received both the plans as well as the submittal package. I reviewed those as well and had some questions for Mr. Ferrante. in regards to the infrastructure and the existing infrastructure that was there, and the reasoning that we needed to change that, as well as the infrastructure for the tennis courts with all of the wiring. So those are all answered when I had questions. Just reached out ahead of time.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Mr. Quinn, I saw you raising your hand. You can be recognized.
Yes, I also had questions, and I also asked and received the information and went over it, and am satisfied with the information I received.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I did. Mr. Kelly, I try not to cause chaos or try to be disrespectful, but Councilman Kelly keeps making statements that are just patently false.
I have an email from
Mr. Kelly, you're not recognized. You're out of order, Mr. Kelly. Stop speaking.
I'm not going to have the man tell the untruth.
You're out of order, Mr. Kelly. You do it all the time. Be quiet, please.
I can't even do due diligence to the public with him talking.
I know.
He just goes on and drones on.
You interrupt me, Mr.
Go ahead. Stop talking, Mr. Kelly.
Let me explain why what he's saying is incorrect. I've been mayor for 2 years, over 2 years now. And when we were going through this project a while back, I had Brian Coward, our recreation director, give a presentation. He was browbeat by Mr. Kelly. He was told it was a sham. Then I supplied plans to the council at the time with facts and figures. I even went over and above. I actually had to get those facts and figures back from the council. So it's a timing issue. I have to be careful what I give out in terms of numbers, in terms of costs, because there's people who are going to be bidding on this. It's basic 101. I can't give out costs and figures, engineering figures to folks who are going to be bidding on the project. That would disrupt the bidding project. It would taint it. So we're at a stage now. We've been through this. I was very collaborative on this process. I had the committees do their job. That's what they're designed to do. Doug Brooks, Jonathan Sackett, Jack Quinn. They met numerous times. They met with the heads of all the sports. I've had numerous meetings. Anyone who has approached me and has asked the administration, can I get a copy of the plans? Can I get a copy of facts and figures that are now public because the bidding process is over with? They're entitled to them. It was a matter of timing with some of this stuff. I couldn't give the information out. So don't be misled that I didn't want to give it out or the public wasn't involved. The public was very involved. The sports programs were very involved. And I want to say this. I received numerous calls from residents that are involved in recreation, some that aren't. They've been calling me, telling me that their kids, that they wish this project had happened 5-10 years ago when their kids were in the programs. There is an overwhelming support for the improvements at Peterson that are long overdue. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've discussed this plenty. So I'd like to see if we have a motion to vote and a motion on R21-36.
So moved.
Second it.
Mr. Jackson, I have another motion.
Nope, we have a motion on the floor that
We
we're going
also
to
have
vote
another
on.
motion too. That's another main motion.
Motion on the floor that's been seconded, Mr. Kelly.
I
Clerk,
understand
take
there's
the
another
roll
motion
call.
with that too. Ask the clerk for information on the motion.
Clerk, take the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly,
No.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz,
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Newton,
Yes.
Vice President Sackett,
Yes.
President Jackson,
Yes, that's 8 yeses, 1 no. Resolution carries. Mr. Kelly, you can make your motion.
My motion is to put that amount of money on referendum. I think we have a deadline. Maybe the clerk can address the deadline for, I think, middle of August 15th or 16th of this year, to have the voters vote in favor or not in favor for that expenditure, especially during COVID and tax appeals. This is reckless to spend this money right now.
Does anybody want to second that motion? Okay, next, we're gonna move on. I'm gonna just make a minor adjustment. I think I want to change something. I'm gonna move the next resolution for business. So next resolution is R21-40. That's gonna be the next agenda item. Could I get a motion?
I make a motion for that.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Freelander.
Is that Adam?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Go ahead, Miss.
We sound alike.
Yeah.
Councilmember Kelly?
Can I read it?
Would you like to read it, or
I want to just give you a little history behind it.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
So we had a last meeting that was here that we were talking about frontliners, COVID-19, and getting more into the teachers and schools and things back to normal. And I believe our educators, as well as the faculty, staff, and personnel within the schools, and not just in Rockaway Township, I'm talking in the state of New Jersey, statewide, should be kind of recognized as first line or frontline workers under 1A. What they do for our children and everything else, and the impact that this has within our communities and many communities throughout the state. I thought that if we shed a little light to the governor, I mean, we're only one voice of many, to somewhat push forward to include those individuals, educators, faculty, staff, personnel, as frontliners, so that we can get our schools safer for our children to get back to attend and try to get on that road of recovery to getting things back on the norm. So with that, I had reached out to the Department of Education in the state, as well as the county. I talked to some local officials in the school district in Rockaway Township, just to get some feedback, facts, and numbers. I didn't want to make the resolution a whole statistics on there with the amount of districts and everything else that was going forward, but I thought the language that I can assemble would pretty much get the point and hopefully make a little bit of attention to the governor. And I do want to say, though, I did have the clerk, and she did want to add something to that, which I agreed with, of sending it immediately down to the governor's office. So with that being said, I'll read it as it states here. This is a resolution requesting Governor Murphy to include all public school educator, faculty, staff, and other personnel within the district in the official definition of frontline workers. Whereas the governing body of Rockaway Township recognizes that the United States, the state of New Jersey, and the local health authorities have declared a public health disaster and emergency regarding COVID or coronavirus and COVID-19, prioritizing disease surveillance and putting in place of precautionary measures to stop the spread. Whereas public school impact millions of students and staff, having a profound impact on families while charged with the care, education, nourishment of their students, and they're an integral part of the health and safety of our community. Whereas our local and regional school districts have responded to the challenges brought about COVID-19 pandemic while conducting the day-to-day operations of our schools and ensuring the efficient delivery of instruction, virtual and in person. Whereas the governing body of Rockaway Township has a substantial public interest in protecting the health and safety of its students, staff, and community to ensure that the local and regional school districts are fully prepared to most effectively face the challenges resulting from the COVID-19 health emergency. Whereas the state of New Jersey Department of Health have developed an interim COVID-19 vaccination plan to develop vaccine allocation recommendations for the availability of vaccines to the frontline workers and vulnerable populations. Whereas district educators, faculty, staff, and other personnel at all levels are essential to the day-to-day operations of our local and regional school districts and critical for virtual and in-class instruction. And whereas the governing body of Rockaway Township requests that Governor Murphy will include school district personnel as frontline workers for the purpose of vaccine allocation. It is therefore resolved that the governing body of Rockaway Township finds a substantial public purpose exists to request that the governor designate all public school district personnel as frontline workers and further as essential frontline workers they be given appropriate priority in the statewide administration of the COVID vaccine as it becomes available. It further be resolved that the office of the township clerk is hereby directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to the office of Governor Phil Murphy. I hereby certify the foregoing to be true of a resolution adopted by the governing body of Rockaway Township at a regular meeting on February 9, 2021. Thank you, gentlemen and women.
Thank you. Clerk, you can take the roll call.
Mr. Jackson, real quick.
Yeah.
I wrote it, Mr. Sackett.
Hey, Tucker, did you write this? Because Edison had it on their meeting last Tuesday, February 2nd.
Nope, I wrote that entirely.
You sure about that?
I wrote it entirely.
Okay.
I'm sorry about your Marktown one, but I wrote it entirely.
Chris, please take the roll call.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Sackett, that you gotta copy it.
Councilmember Kelly, you're being asked to vote.
Member Kelly?
Yeah, I wrote it. Thank you. Yes, passing it.
Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yeah, yes, whoever wrote it.
Councilmember Kritz?
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
No copy from Edison. Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Resolution carries.
He probably thinks it's Thomas Edison.
I'm going to go, normally it gets all convoluted. I give 5 minutes old business, new business, and reports. I'm just going to, we had the budget meeting earlier. So let's do, I'm going to combine for everybody old business, new business, and reports and give everybody 15 minutes. So I'll start. I just write down by who I see in the screen in the order. So Mr. Salberg, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Yeah, again, just as I know everybody's going to be saying, and they have been saying, just want to thank the road crew. There was a heck of a storm we went through, multiple storms. Had an opportunity to unfortunately be out during the height of it, and our roads were in such better shape than other towns, unpassable in some areas. So again, literally, they were lifesavers. Nothing short. Beyond that, the Peterson improvements have to echo what the public was saying. This is going to be good for property values. This is going to be good for attracting new blood into our town, to kind of offset some of the dilapidated homes we have on Green Pond. So I think it's nothing but good. The money going into Peterson. I think it's a breath of fresh air, and I think it's promises made, promises kept. Believe that again, the farmers market, gotta love them, trudging through the cold weather. Let's support them, and let's keep looking towards March. And finally, I took the time to reach out to a lot of different parties on the budget. Things cost money, and prices go up, and a very small amount of that is really open to debate. So I'm proud to be part of this budget. It's good for the town. It's good for the health of our town. And again, it was a pleasure working with the administration on it. So, again, I'm honored to be part of this whole process. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. No new business at this time. I just wanted to once again thank all the guys and gals that were out there clearing the roads. I passed a bunch of them on the road myself while I was plowing. So wanted to just thank them for doing the job that they do. Also just wanted to thank everyone for this first phase of Peterson to go through. Looking forward to the additional phases to make our town a better and family-friendly place. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Friedlander. You're muted. There
Yes,
you go.
I'm unmuted.
You're good.
I'd like to just say the same thing that the other council people said before me. DPW, phenomenal job. They're just great, and you can't even say anything about any bad things about them. Just moving along. Just hope everybody gets the scheduling when it's posted for the shots, because we're got to get through this cold weather, and hopefully we'll get to see each other again one of these days. I can't take this virtual meetings anymore. I'm working from home. I want to get off this laptop. Anyway, no committee meetings. It's just welcome back, Christine. Chrissy. Now you're back in February. Hopefully we can coordinate something for the sewer assessment. You know, I'm going to push them to contact you. And that's about it. Just stay safe, people, and let's get through the cold days ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Kritz?
Yeah, this is now the second budget process that I've been a part of. Part of what I value about the council is generally, you know, generally everybody's on the same page. We all want to see good things for the town. But that's just it. We are a council. We are a collective group. And I think that we can have good, honest, open conversations and open to other opinions without the animosity and the belittling and the chastising that goes on, you know? So I brought something forth today, you know, and just like the council works, it came to a vote. People spoke, they didn't speak, and that's great. And that's what it's about. And moving on, you know what I mean? It's not about, you know, bringing it up later. And again, just the condescension, which, you know, I don't appreciate it. And I think that if we worked, all of us worked together, had a little fun, you know what I'm saying? And just did our jobs, but respected everybody else's opinion. You know, a couple people voted no on what I brought forth, but I respect that. You know, that's what we're supposed to do. You know, it's a consensus. And I'd just like to see a little bit more of that. I'd also like to echo, you know, I'm sure we'll go 9 for 9 on the road department. I'd like to speak about the extra sacrifice that they made having to work through the Super Bowl. I don't think they really missed much. But again, just a fantastic job by the road crew and all public works. The other thing I want to announce is that I've spoken to administration, and I'm going to be putting together a sponsorship committee for Peterson Field. I'd like to see, I think there's a really good opportunity for some large-scale sponsorships, corporate sponsorships for different aspects of Peterson. There's a lot of details to iron out. As this, you know, comes to fruition, I'd be more than happy to share those details and welcome any involvement by anybody on that committee. But I think there's a really good opportunity to hit, you know, a lot of our corporate residents and all the way down to, you know, private residents for, you know, small sponsorships, whether it's, you know, the engraved pavers, something. But you know, where the money's going to go, you know, that's certainly going to be up for discussion. I personally would like to see that money returned to the recreation department. It's certainly not to offset the cost of Peterson, but it is to enhance the experience for the residents of Rockaway Township. So more to come on that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kritz. Mr. Kelly?
I have a couple of things. Just some comments with Mr. Kritz on there. Mr. Kritz, nobody's trying to be condescending with some of the stuff that you bring up. Like I said, you know, when I see some of the records that show you're interested in golf carts on roads and you want turf fields and all that stuff, I just think there's more about Rockaway Township and the budget process and expenditures than it is just about recreation, because you're focusing on the 65% of the kids that participate in rec that live in Rockaway, but we always have that silent individuals of the 40% or 35% that don't. And for you to make an increase into your salary, as well as the mayor and the council president and the other council members, but yet the clerk that we couldn't even do her day in a week, you won't give her the fair salary of the $5,000 increase, but you're willing to give yourself $3,000 or the mayor $5,000. So it's hard for me not to question you on that, where your thinking is, rather than thinking about yourself. And if you believe that you do that much work, that you deserve an almost, 60%, 70% raise, I just don't agree with that. And I think it's the wrong time to bring it up. But when you also talked about contacting officials, we got the agenda packet at 3:13 p.m. on Friday. So when I get home from work, they're already closed. And then we had another snowstorm on Monday. And not to mention that, prior in the administration wouldn't let us get any information from that to see what was going on there because they were afraid of bids and whatnot, that we could compromise that and if anybody had got that information. Well, if the bids went out a while ago and they were approved, we could have got the copy of that resolution much earlier to give all of us the benefit of having to get some information for that. As you're aware, the mayor has said it to everybody, even our own clerk that was filling in for our current clerk, not to speak with me. So they don't answer my questions like they do you. I don't kiss the ring of the mayor, but it seems everybody else does because that's what he says. And because I question things, I'll be chastised and then there'll be some condescending comments of your colleagues, but that's okay. I questioned Mr. Sacken on a resolution he clearly didn't write. I spent days on mine that I wrote it with assistance from local, county, and state officials, and he's going to mock me. That's concerning with that, but you're quiet. But I already know that you've done that once before in a Facebook post because people went after you when it was about extending the actual second quarter tax payment. So I'm not going to address that anymore. But you know what? You should look in the mirror sometimes at some of the comments that you say because you do the exact same thing. Moving forward, I think that the church, they're still looking for donations for the homeless. Cold, the weather, there are still people that do live outside in certain areas on the Rockaway Borough, Dover border area. So Holy Trinity is always making or collecting clothes, sleeping bags, any kind of food. I had requested last time if the mayor maybe can divide some of those sanitizer hand wipes that he got to some of the other groups that are out there. I don't know if that was done. I never received any information that it was. As far as plowing, our DPW does kill it. I did send emails out like I normally do to the DPW. I also don't want people to forget about what the county does. I mean, the county roads between 664 and 513 and all those other areas, if it wasn't for those county roads being clear, it would make it even more difficult for the town locals to actually clear the roads. So the county does a phenomenal job on that. As far as the public safety director, wasn't my idea. It was something that I saw on some records that the mayor was having communications with members of his administration on the safety director. So that's where I saw to question that. That's something that we should move forward. At the last meeting, I had asked about the farm property and Dennis Monte property, and I believe Mr. Yachafano said that there was a letter that was sent to that property owner. I'm not aware of any letter, Mr. Yachafano, and could you actually send me a copy of that letter?
It's a closed session item.
The letter that went to Mr. Monte is a public record. He's not a
I
client.
believe discussing this is a closed session item.
I'm sorry?
I believe we were informed by the township attorney last meeting that discussing this is a closed session item. We shouldn't be discussing it in public.
I think what we heard from the town attorney was that a letter was sent to Mr. Monte. That letter is an open public record. And I would like to see the record. And if anything, when was it sent, Mr. Yachafano?
Mr. Yachafano, you're recognized.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Kelly, this is an administrative matter. The administration has appropriately addressed Mr. Monte.
You said you sent a letter. When did you send the letter?
Mr. Kelly, let's get things straight. Stop putting words in my mouth and misstating things.
I'm only reiterating what you said at the last meeting.
I never said, Mr. Kelly.
Don't yell at me like I'm
I sent a letter.
Stop acting like a child, Mr. Kelly.
Do not yell at me.
Stop acting like a child.
I never said that I sent a letter to Mr. Monte. I never said that my firm sent a letter to Mr. Monte. Okay?
There was no communication to Mr. Monte then?
What?
Was there any communication in writing to Mr. Monte?
Mr. Kelly, what word don't you understand?
I'm asking you, was there a letter sent to Mr. Monte? It's just simple.
I'm not discussing it anymore, Mr. Kelly.
Okay. The other thing that we have here moving forward is that, Mr. Jackson, you made a comment about some of the increases to some of the personnel. I'm sorry that I believe that some of the personnel, much like the mayor, The mayor has salary adjustments, and he can give anybody he wants whatever they want. And then we have the 2% on top of that. I think you heard Mrs. Palmieri state that. Well, when I see some employees that I think that are underpaid for the job that they do, there's nothing wrong to request X amount of money for that individual, whether it's our deputy tax collector or tax assessor, who's basically doing the job of the assessor for almost half the amount of money. And of course, our municipal clerk that everybody praises, but you don't think she's worth to get an increase of money, but yet yourselves, you want an increase. So, I mean, you make those comments on that. We're not done with the budget moving forward to make certain cuts to justify, to offset those costs. That's what it's all about. To have an email, you know, all my questions. So it's questions behind the scenes that the public can't see at a public meeting. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's very transparent. So because I'm an advocate for that and would rather have some questions going forward, they just got done putting together a whole entire budget. There's no real trick questions here. It's based on the documentation they provided to us. And then, you know, you chastise certain people because they didn't email, but then you have questions and other people have questions, and then that's okay. And then the other concern I have is, what do we do when we have members of this council that vote on things that are a direct conflict of their position? Mr. Salberg has voted where his wife is a member of the committees and she gets paid. Mr. Jackson, you vote on even with the vision care of benefits that one of your family members is underneath that benefit plan. I know you laugh about it.
It's a lie. You're lying.
But you voted.
You're lying. What you just said is a lie.
You voted.
What you just said is a lie. Mr. Kelly, admit what you just said is a lie.
Mr. President.
You're lying.
You're interrupting me.
You're lying.
My time isn't done.
You have time. That's right. You're lying.
I know, but you're interrupting me though.
Go ahead. I just give you another minute. Go ahead.
So when we go through all these things, when I question them, it's not a gotcha moment. You've been told this before. So when I ask these questions, you get upset rather than say, hey, you know what? I made an error. You know what? I shouldn't have done that. But you know what? If I were to do it, or if the others that were in the majority earlier, if they were to do it, it would have been all over the place. You would have been after it. Our town attorney would have said things about conflict that he challenged. The mayor challenged conflict in court and lost. So, like Mr. Critz said, we're all here. We all have different personalities. I'm just a straight out business individual looking to find ways to minimize expenditures to get what we need to go forward rather than having increases all the time. And I don't just focus on just recreation. There's other things that we need throughout there. And that $1 million, I think, is a lot of money for those two improvements that we're trying to do. And we could use money other places, or have the people vote on it. And you don't want the people to vote on it because they're going to vote no, like they voted on Peterson Field before. So don't get mad at me because I question all those things and try to belittle me and call me a liar and all this kind of stuff, Council President. You just voted on the department that your wife's in during the budget period. And I'm being dishonest, you're telling me. You did it on your records. So I'm just asking, forget about personalities. Let's just look what's there. Treat everybody the same. If Mr. Brooks can call Mrs. Palmieri or can call Mrs. Ferrante and Mr. Critz can do the same thing sometime after 3:13 on Friday and have information over the weekend or on a Monday to talk about it at a budget or at this meeting, I don't get those courtesies at all. I never have, and I probably never will. So to say that I should ask these questions, I don't know them until we talk about them. So just think about that moving on before you come out and make some ridiculous comment or some false accusation on something else. But that's all I have with the 6th Ward. Oh, one last thing, because Mr. Sackett had asked that last time. Mrs. Noon and we did speak about the dog park again. Now I've been talking about the dog park for well over 5 years. And there was another individual, Mr. Haas, that was interested, as well as myself, to do it over at Snake Hill Road, which is now paved, and we have to put something there for the state to allow us to continue using that. I can't do anything as an individual. We still need approval from the administration to go forward and maybe start putting something in place. Until we get the okay or the green light of a location, then we can draft a plan moving forward. Have we heard anything or have we made any kind of determination about the dog park over in the Snake Hill area where RT Castle was. So we can put this matter to bed. I'm going to move on to ground running. I have volunteers with that, people with machines and equipment at zero cost to the taxpayers from donations. I know it's not a recreation thing like Mr. Kritz is into, but it is something for the 4,000 pet owners that are registered in this township, and maybe they can get something too for the benefit of them in this 6th ward as well. Do we have any follow up with that? Nobody. See, Mr. Kritz, they won't give me any answers, but they'll give you answers. A simple question about a dog park for 4 years, and then in 15 minutes you can get information about a proposal for $957,000. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Quinn. You're muted if you're talking.
All right, now I'm on.
Yep.
All right, as everybody has said, the road department and our employees have done a phenomenal job taking care of the snow and the residents of this town. The farmers market continues to be a shining star over there at the mall. All right, the rec committee is now fully functioning with its full members. Looking forward to seeing the improvements at Peterson Field and actually getting something back to the kids and hopefully getting something back normal that we can all look at. Mr. Kritz, you are 100% right on getting things donated. I have advocated for that all along, and I will be glad to work with you on that program. And lastly, you know, we worked on this, but we're working on the budget. And tax point is $429,507. And Mr. Kelly, keep your mouth shut. Okay.
You threatening me?
It would be very simple, Mr. Kelly. It would be very simple if we could save a tax point if the frivolous lawsuits that keep popping up were done away with. We would save that amount of money for the taxpayers and move on with our life.
Mr. Kelly, you're out of order. Again, unprofessional.
How much was the mayor's lawsuit?
Unprofessional and childish, like you've been your whole life. Go ahead, Mr. Quinn.
And lastly, everybody, please stay safe, stay your distance, and get your shot. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Snoon.
Yes, just want to reiterate about the road department, the great job they did with the storms and the upcoming storms. And just to ditto about the farmers market, went again, had a great time. And everyone stay safe and stay well.
Thank you. Vice President Sackett.
Thank you, Council President. I was quiet the whole time while Mr. Kelly was making up some stories, so I appreciate him being quiet while I speak. He constantly speaks about conflicts of interest all the time. Last meeting, Mr. Kelly kept complaining about Art Crane and issues with his title. I was wondering why he kept speaking for Mr. Crane. Isn't Mr. Crane his landlord? Isn't Mr. Kelly trying to buy his business? Seems like quite the conflict to me. Also, it's funny how we spoke about lawsuits last meeting. We had 3 currently going on. Well, we got handed another one a couple of days later. So Mr. Kelly's trying to save the taxpayers' money. He's bringing a lawsuit to the town over $522. Okay, he's suing the town because he says Mr. Yachafano did not attend the meeting and we were billed 2.9 hours. So when you total it up, $522. Enough of the lawsuits, my friend. Lastly, like Jack had said, the committee is full. They're working on a lot of programs, community outreach. A lot of these improvements aren't just for the kids. Okay, they're also for the seniors. We have a lot of seniors in town. Okay, the pickleball courts are very excited for. Tennis courts as well. I've gotten reached out by a A lot of people are very excited for these projects. That's a good thing. Also, after last meeting, I was also reached out to about the dog park. I sent together a plan to the mayor. I sent an email. I reached out to them. If you don't like the mayor, send an email to the business administrator. If you don't like her, send it to the assistant business administrator. Send them an email. Put together your plan. Don't just talk about it at the meetings. Have a plan. Put it in writing. We can start working on it. Thank you.
Show me the plan, Sean.
Get ready for more interruptions, okay? I'm gonna go now, and Mr. Kelly won't be able to control himself, so just be prepared for interruptions. First things first, it offends me greatly kind of how you attack Mr. Kritz. Mr. Kritz and his family have been volunteering their time for this community for years and years before he was on the council. He doesn't look for votes. He doesn't do anything to get votes. Him and his family have donated more time and money to this community than anybody I know. His integrity is second to none. They're the salt of the earth. So to even question his motives, again, you hear things Mr. Kelly says just aren't true. There's nobody in my family that benefits under the division plan. But you hear Mr. Kelly say things like that. Again, he's lying. They're in terms of the budget items and getting things answered, the people that spoke, they didn't reach out to Miss Ferrante or Miss Palmieri directly. They reach out to the administration. The administration's handle it as we've been instructed. For some reason, everybody except Mr. Kelly can follow the rules and do those things. And then he wants to make a public spectacle saying he's this malign person who just questions things. And it's just all a show. It's all a sham. It's smoke and mirrors. People ask questions, that's the fact of the matter and they get answers. I've never had a time where they, heard from anybody that they're not giving them answers when they reach out in advance. In terms of the dog park, I just want to make clear, because again, another misstatement, pretty much a dog park in the North End is going to, impact more people in the North End. There aren't even close. So, and again, it's a dog park, so people bring their dogs. There aren't even close to 4,000 registered dogs in Rockaway, not even close. And then if you look at how many people are in the North End that would probably benefit from it. So again, Mr. Kelly throws out a false number that he pulled out of some part of his body that isn't accurate to try and make his point. He continually spreads false information. He continually attacks members of the administration, members of the council, and most of what he says and does is factless. So, it's a shame that we all have to endure this. It's a shame that the township has to endure his lawsuits, his constant Oprah requests that take up the time of the clerk, the numerous emails he sends to the clerk. It's just a shame. It really is. And it's not what this is about. We're all here to do something good and to make the town better. And he's not. And that's just the reality of it. So with that said, I'll turn it over to the mayor for your report.
Great. Thank you, Council President. I'm going to piggyback on that. It seems like I come to the meetings, I listen to Mr. Kelly.
Of course you do.
It's like when I was, there he goes again.
There he goes. He's a child.
It's like when I was a kid, there was a thing called Aesop's Fables. That's what I feel like I'm being told. A bunch of half-truths and lies. First, I'm going to address he says that, what about the mayor's cost for the lawsuit? See, the devil is in the details. When I put out a lawsuit, it was for the benefit of the town because I was trying to run the
Mr.
town.
Kelly, control yourself, son. Sucking a lollipop. Sucking a lollipop.
You lost his lawsuit.
I listened to
Mr. Kelly, you're out of order.
I listened quietly while Mr. Kelly spewed a whole host of lies.
You lost.
He can't control himself. He's a child. He can't control himself.
Continually lies. Those are
out of order.
So Mr. Kelly has how many lawsuits? 4 or 5 now, open lawsuits. And what are they related to? They're related to.
You lost.
They're related to.
Oh my God.
Between Mr. Jackson and the attorney. Nothing that benefits the town. So when
you can always give up the information.
There he goes again.
He's unbelievable. It's a child.
Be honest, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kelly, you're not recognized. You're out of order.
Miss Clipperton, could you please mute him? Thank you. When we talk
Mayor
about
Puzio, I do keep muting. He keeps unmuting himself. I'm trying to take notes. I apologize.
Okay, you see how rude that is? I would never do that to him.
Yeah.
when we talk about Peterson, this project, I've been talking about it at public meetings for months now, that the bid package was going to be coming in and at the end of January. Once the bids were open, I put it out and as a public notice on the website. Everyone had access to the documents. Not once did Mr. Kelly reach out to the administration. Not once did he reach out to myself through an email, to Ms. Seeger, or our assistant business administrator, Dave Dyer. Not once did he reach out. He even said it himself tonight with the budget. He was asked if he sent any questions. He vehemently said, no, not one. I didn't contact or ask anything. That's his words, not mine. He keeps suing the town. He keeps costing us money. I'm a mayor that's trying to get you value for your dollar. So he talks about wasted money on projects, on Peterson Field, on things that are going to benefit the taxpayers, things that we're trying to do that are good for the town. He spends your money, and quite a bit of it, on lawsuits that are just silly, actually silly lawsuits. I implore anyone who's at the meeting to go look it up. Do your own fact checking and see what the lawsuits are about. I can't take Mr. Kelly serious when he says he's trying to save dollars for the town. He's a guy who, to me, seems to spend millions to save thousands. That's the best way I can say it. With that said, Mr. Council President, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Seeger now.
Well, first, I'm going to ask on the agenda, the Township Attorney's report.
Thank you, Council
You're
President.
recognized, Mr. Yachafano.
Thank you, Council President. Very briefly, following up on Mr. Sackett's comments, as the council will recall at our meeting of the 26th, last meeting, Mr. Kelly asked me for a litigation inventory, at which time I referenced the 3 known lawsuits at that time. Mr. Kelly made some comments today about transparency. It's notable, as Mr. Sackett has pointed out, that Mr. Kelly has filed a 4th lawsuit. And the interesting thing about it in terms of the transparency issue is that Mr. Kelly's lawsuit was filed on the 25th of February, the day before the council meeting of the 26th. And when Mr. Kelly asked me for a litigation inventory, he didn't mention that new lawsuit. Other than that, the lawsuit has been in the process of being responded to. And that's all I have to say about the litigation report.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask Mr. Yachafano what the new lawsuit is about?
Mr. Mayor, you're recognized. Go ahead, Mr. Yachafano. Can you tell us what the new lawsuit?
Yes, Council President. The new lawsuit is an Oprah lawsuit in which Mr. Kelly requested, based upon a request made by Mr. Kelly, for copies of the WebEx invitations and thank yous for the council meeting of June 23, 2020. As the council will recall, Mr. Kelly much earlier had taken the position that I billed the council inappropriately because I didn't attend that regular meeting virtually. Subsequently to that allegation by Mr. Kelly, the council had evidence and saw fit to amend the minutes to reflect that I was in attendance at the regular session. Notably, the minutes did reflect already that I had been in attendance at the closed session that was also held on June 23rd. Also notably, Mr. Kelly's lawsuit alleges that a series of instructions that he supposedly provided the clerk with, or the deputy clerk, I should say, for accessing the information from WebEx, and claims that the information would have been available from WebEx had the clerk or the deputy clerk at the time, since Chrissy was on maternity leave, followed through with his instructions. Investigation with WebEx has shown that they purged their invitation and thank you records 3 months after the event in question. In this case, it was September 23rd. Excuse me, it was June 23rd. The latest date that the records would have been available from WebEx would have been September 24th, by my recollection. Attached to Mr. Kelly's lawsuit also was an appendix, about a 4 or 5 page appendix of WebEx access instructions, purporting to show that the procedure to be followed to get that information from WebEx. Very interestingly, the appendix to Mr. Kelly's lawsuit, and let me make it clear, this is a verified complaint, meaning that Mr. Kelly swore to the contents of the complaint as being true. Notably, the WebEx instructions that Mr. Kelly attached to his complaint were not from WebEx. They were from a third-party entity, Rasmussen College. And also notably, these WebEx instructions from Rasmussen College were obtained on the 25th of last month, the day that Mr. Kelly's lawsuit was filed. And I hate to use the word notably again, but just as notably, the WebEx instructions from Rasmussen College that were attached to Mr. Kelly's verified and sworn lawsuit did not reflect, I should say, the red line banner that appears on the WebEx site when you actually access the real WebEx site, that they only archived their records for 3 months. Mr. Kelly's OPA request, I said, was filed approximately 6 to 7 weeks after the archives at WebEx would have been purged.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Yachafano.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Seeger?
I don't have any comments at this hour. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go through. I don't know if Ms. Ferrante, you have anything?
Yes, Council President.
Yes.
Yes, I know it's late and you guys have had a long night, but I just want to say thank you for everybody for your support. Engineering is excited to get the construction activities underway for the Peterson basketball and tennis courts. We'll provide an update to administration and the council as we go along. If questions come up, please submit them, council members and or the public. We're excited. So thank you again for your support, and we look forward to getting these courts underway.
Excellent. Mr. Dyer?
Good evening, Council President. No comment at this time.
Okay. Mrs. Palmieri?
Thank you, President. I appreciate the questions coming in advance with the budget. Other than that, no report. Thank you.
Thank you. With that said, can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Brooks?
Second.
Mr. Quinn, Mr. Brooks? Mr. Quinn, second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
Goodbye, all.
Good night, all.
We'll talk to everybody Thursday.
Stay safe.